Would you please remain standing and join our vocalist, Amy Van Keeken, in the singing of our national anthem.
Patriot love, in all thy sons command, car ton bras sait porter l'épée, il sait porter la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, and honored guests. My name is Robert Driver, and as co-chair of the Conference Organizing Committee, it's my great pleasure to welcome you to Edmonton and the opening ceremony of the annual conference of the Canadian Society for Civil Engineering, this year with the theme Leadership in Sustainable Infrastructure. Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs, collègues et invités d'honneur. Mon nom est Robert Driver et en tant que coprésident du comité local organisateur de cette conférence, c'est mon plus grand plaisir de vous souhaiter la bienvenue à Edmonton et à cette cérémonie d'ouverture du congrès annuel de la Société canadienne de génie civil. Avec cette année le thème du leadership en infrastructure durable. Okay, so as you've probably figured out by now, this is a very special occasion for engineering in Canada in that it's the 125th anniversary of the founding of the original Canadian Society of Civil Engineers, which eventually evolved into the Engineering Institute of Canada. So we're treating this as a joint celebration between CSCE and the EIC, and once again I'd like to welcome all of the EIC members who are here and are joining us for all of the events for this week. I'd like to begin by introducing you to the members of the head table before me. If I could ask the members to please rise briefly as I mention their names and be recognized by the audience. First of all, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jeff DiBattista, Dr. Jeff DiBattista, the co-chair of the conference with me. It's been a great pleasure to work with Jeff for over 3 years in organizing this conference. Next to Jeff is Mr. Tom Scarangello. He is chairman and CEO of the prominent global structural consulting firm Thornton Tomasetti, and Tom is our keynote speaker this morning, so he's going to receive a more formal introduction a little later on in the program. Next to Tom is Cam Franchuk, and Cam is the technical program chair for the conference. Next to Cam is Randy Pickle, who is the president of the Canadian Society for Civil Engineering. Next to our president is Greg DiLoretto, who is the president-elect of our sister organization down in the United States, and the American Society of Civil Engineers, and we're glad to have Greg join us as well. Brad Smid is the Western Region Vice President of the Canadian Society for Civil Engineering. And Andrew Nielsen is the immediate past chair representing the CSCE local Edmonton section. Now I'd like to ask Jeff DiBattista to join me on stage for the official conference opening. With the striking of the ceremonial CSCE gong, I declare the 2012 CSCE conference open. Okay. Where do you want me?
I'll just give it a whack.
Okay. How about that?
Don't hit me.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob. That was fun. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As Bob mentioned, I'm Jeff DiBattista, co-chair of CSCE 2012, and it's absolutely my pleasure to conduct the very first duty of the opening ceremony, which after striking the gong, which is to thank all of our sponsors. We have 46 corporate and government sponsors of the conference, which is absolutely remarkable, and it's a testament to the importance that civil engineering plays in our country and around the world. So I would like to begin by giving a quick round of applause for all of our sponsors. Bob has a hard time controlling me, and I know he really wants me to stick to the script, but I just can't do it. So I just have to comment, last year at the closing ceremony, when we were in Ottawa, of course, you bang the gong at the closing as well, we gave it a good rap and the whole thing fell off because it's not very structurally stable. So this year I made sure that one of us was designated to hold the gong and the other to strike the gong. Back to the sponsorship side of things, I also have to highlight one particular sponsor, and that is our executive sponsor of the conference, AECOM. We are very indebted to Art Washuta at AECOM and the whole team over there for their incredible corporate support for being the executive sponsor of the conference. They were the very first company to sign up as a sponsor of CSCE 2012, and with the credibility of their participation at the beginning, it made it much easier for us on the fundraising committee to let others know how important this event is and the value of participating. So one more round of applause for AECOM. It's now my great pleasure to introduce Randy Pickle, President of the CSCE nationally, to offer a few remarks on behalf of the Society. So Randy, over to you.
Thank you, Jeff, and certainly on behalf of myself and the CSC, our congratulations to Jeff and Bob on pulling this conference together. It's certainly, we've been here a couple of days, some of us, and it's already coming up as a unique and milestone event at CSCE. In the late 19th century, as engineering moved from a military career to one of building the colonial defenses for building a nation, the civil engineers of the day, John Kennedy, Thomas Kiefer, Walter Shanley, Casimir Zosky, and others, recognized a need for a society to elevate the standards of the profession. And on February 24th, 1887, the works of these men created the Canadian Society of Civil Engineers in Montreal, and the new society was incorporated later that year by a Dominion Act. The original CSC became the Engineering Institute of Canada in 1918 as our other engineering disciplines emerged, such as our colleagues in mechanical and electrical. And to honor that day in 1887 in Montreal, the new CSC is celebrating 125 years of civil engineering here in Edmonton this week, along with representatives of EIC. And we welcome those representatives as well as other sister societies of EIC that are joining us here as well. The highlight of the celebrations will be the joint awards gala on Thursday night as we jointly recognize our members who have made outstanding contributions to the profession. I would suppose that if a conference must have a theme, the theme of that first meeting in February in 1887 was probably reflective of the needs to build a new society for the building of the new infrastructure of the new nation. The theme of this year's conference is Leadership in Sustainable Infrastructure. A civil infrastructure that delivers essential life services such as water, wastewater, transportation, and shelter is expected to be resilient, reliable, and sustainable. As we know, in Europe, the Romans built the aqueducts over 2,000 years ago to supply the water to the buildings and for bathing and foundations and fountains, and it's still a major monument throughout Europe. Well, in Canada, we have our own versions. In Toronto, we have aqueducts. It happens every spring when the water mains break. Certainly not a sign of a sustainable infrastructure. You know, the Canadian infrastructure is very diverse, from the Cabot Trail in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, to the utilidors in Flin Flon, northern Manitoba, to the transit system in Vancouver. Now, there are some cities that are getting it right, and I'll give you two examples. And I come from Oshawa, which we're just east of Toronto, and just beside us is the town of Ajax, established in 1941 as a home to a munitions plant. And it had the basic infrastructure of water, wastewater, roads, and a railroad system. In 2012, it has a population over 100,000 and growing, 370-kilometer road system, and it's a 70-year-old municipality, but it has an infrastructure that's probably less than 20 years old. And looking at their current budget, they are spending $1.5 million primarily for pavement overlay program this year. Just now, my own home city, city of Oshawa, incorporated as a village in 1850, 2012, population of 152,000 and growing, over 1,000 kilometers of road. The city budget this year is $4.75 million, primarily for road reconstruction. So we always hear the bad, but there is some good, and certainly Oshawa has a long way to go. Now, looking back, reflecting over the years of the history of our civil infrastructure, our government seemed to take notice when it's either an economic downturn, as we've seen in the last 5 years, or there is major infrastructure failure. In 2004, Building Canada announced their seven-year, $33 billion plan to move forward and improve our infrastructure. And that program has come to an end now. The money has been spent, the projects have been built, but it has left a bit of a hangover in our municipalities. So in November 2011, the Federal Transportation Minister, Mr. LaBelle, announced a new process, Building for Prosperity, Canada's long-term infrastructure plan. And it's a long-term plan for Canada's civil infrastructure involving the provinces, the territories, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and other interest groups such as CSCE. And it's going to be a three-phase process. In phase one, they're going to take a step back and analyze just where they have come through that previous programs and where they've got to date. And as part of that, CSCE has partnered with Engineers Canada and the Association of Consulting Engineers Companies on an invited submission, and we prepared a paper entitled The Role of Engineering in Infrastructure. And recently, on May 7th, 2012, CSCE made a presentation to a steering committee of Infrastructure Canada on the rationale of adopting a national sustainability rating system. Now, recently, we have partnered with FCM and a number of other organizations to create the National State of Canada Infrastructure Report Card as a measurement of the current state of Canada's civil infrastructure with input from over 400 municipalities to an online survey. And phase one dealt with the basics of roads, potable water systems, and sewage systems. Our colleagues in the ASC have already undertaken such a report card, and you can see the results of their certainly not high marks in any area. Our colleagues in Britain at ICE have also done the same thing. Again, not high marks in any area. Federation of Canadian Municipalities is still working on the announcement of theirs, and hopefully we'll hear the results of that, but I think we can expect that our report card will not fare any better than our American friends or our British colleagues. So, to leave you with two thoughts on infrastructure. Infrastructure with engineers is like a healthcare system without doctors. Think about it. And what has become kind of a catchphrase around CSC in the last little while is we want to ensure that we're building the right thing first and build it right the first time. So with that, I wish you all a successful conference and we'll talk to you as we see you in the halls.
Thanks very much, Randy. I think we can all agree with you on all of your points about the importance of investing in our own society first. It's the foundation upon which our entire civilized nation and the civilized world is built, frankly. I'll now call forward to join me on the stage Conrad Sue, who is the Director of the Office of Infrastructure and Funding Strategy for the City of Edmonton, and co-chair of the first International Conference on Sustaining Public Infrastructure, which is taking place as part of this conference. And Conrad is going to introduce a new video created by our host city here, the City of Edmonton. Please welcome Conrad Sue.
The theme of this conference is Leadership in Sustainable Infrastructure. A timely topic when considered Canadian municipalities, or most of the Canadian municipalities, are facing the challenge of funding and sustaining public infrastructure in the face of limited resources and competing demands. And this is a challenge to all of us. This challenge is not unique. Edmonton has the same challenge. What Edmonton has done, though, is have long understood that effective asset management, infrastructure asset management, is key to a well-managed, sustainable city. Seeing infrastructure as an investment, not as expenditure, and recognizing that delaying investment in the long run is going to cost us a lot more. This is a change, this is a turning point when Council shift this kind of thinking, led Edmonton into acting aggressively and decisively when the economic condition arises to renew our infrastructure, as well as to build new facilities to support the growing and thriving city. The video that I'm going to show you, A City Well Built, was developed as a tool to show our citizens how much progress the city has made in the past few years in adding new facility to support growth and to look after our existing infrastructure. The videos also underscores the important leadership function engineers play in the infrastructure asset management arena, and it reinforces the reason why most of us are called to this profession. We, as civil engineers, want to serve our citizens, to enhance the quality of life by ensuring our infrastructure assets are enduring, financially viable, safe, environmental, and support the social and economic activities of our communities. I hope you enjoy the video. Thank you.
The soul of our city is its people. The backbone of our city is its infrastructure. Roads, transit lines, sewers, parks, and recreation centers. They are the base in which we build communities and grow our economy. In 2006, City Council recast Edmonton's infrastructure plan, and it began a building program that outshines anything that has come before. Repairing parts of the city that have not been touched since the 1950s, and building new facilities that are the envy of any major center. We are building a city that stands proudly alongside any other in the world. It's a smart time to build. It's the right time to build. The provincial and federal governments have joined the City of Edmonton in making substantial investments in growing the city. Interest rates have been low. Local builders expanded their capacity to take on work, and the city adopted new methods to finance it. It is the right time to build. This mammoth effort, an investment of more than $9 billion, has renewed many existing facilities to extend their lifespan and transformed our cityscape with new construction, new roads, new housing. all environmentally innovative with construction and refurbishing work done to the highest standards possible. Edmonton's vision ensures our neighborhoods, established and new, have the building blocks to make them great. Roads and sidewalks, places for communities to connect and have fun, protective services, and social housing. End to end, our roadways would stretch to New York City. Underground, 5,500 kilometers of sewer pipes carry wastewater and stormwater away from our homes, and new waste management facilities will divert up to 90% of household waste from the landfill. Contractors will benefit from the new material recycling plant, allowing them to obtain a higher environmental rating. In 2011, Edmonton opened its first new recreation center in decades and jumped to the forefront with one of the largest, most modern facilities in the country. More facilities are following close behind. LRT stations change the way people move around Edmonton. Riders from all walks of life board the LRT more than 95,000 times every weekday. The North Line to Nate will bring thousands more. Public transit has a new life as a preferred choice, along with new roadways, bridges, bike paths, and trails. City Council, working from the input of residents, set out a plan, a guide for Edmonton's future. The way ahead. It's a vision that integrates the needs of the present with the reality of the future. We are building a city of choice, a destination that people aspire to move to, and that those who live here love. We have a plan. We are building our vision now. Edmonton, a city that has seen the future and embraces it.